Alrighty guys, what is going on? Got a lot of things to do. So we got brand new rubber grommets for the bottom of the radiator, and we've been waiting on these from the dealership, so we haven't been able to throw them in, but we can finally put them inside the frame where they properly belong. Now we also are going to be replacing this rubber hose line because the one that is on here is completely torn. Now before I put that in the new rubber grommet, got to get all these hoses connected first. And then we could go ahead and sit this on the grommets that they're supposed to go on. Next is the main radiator line. Okay, so I've attached every hose, tightened every clamp. Now I'm gonna put that shroud back on it. So this AC line comes around like that. Now that all the bushings are sitting properly, I can start putting these bolts back on. I'm just missing one more right here. Oh, get away from there. So that's fully installed now. That shroud, there's like two little pins that go into the frame that you got to make sure lines up. That's why I was also making this not sit properly at first. But both bushings are in. The ones that were missing are now there. So the radiator is like fully supported now. This hose is already loosened. Now just to tighten that bolt, pop this whole thing off. Start to put some coolant in it. All the lines attached and everything, make sure there's no leaks. And then we'll go ahead and turn it on and see how it runs. So I've popped the cap off. This is a full kit. You can buy these at AutoZone. They're pretty cheap and they help you out significantly to bleed out the system. Makes it for a very easy fill. So now just to fill this whole thing with coolant until this starts to kind of like burp and bubble up, we'll go ahead and turn her on, run her for a little. Normally whenever you have the condensers, when you want to bleed the system as well, you want to run it at full high heat. That helps all the extra little bubbles come out and it helps it get to operating temperatures a lot faster. But just bleeding it normally should be fine like this. This is specifically for this car. You might be asking why pink, why isn't it green, why isn't it yellow? You always want to check the coolant. This one's Scion 2004 to 2016. This is a 2005, so it's very specific. So I've gone ahead, put the cap back on. I made sure the reservoir was to the full line. Now just to throw this bracket back on. So now that that's out the way, we can go ahead and attach this hood latch. Now just to make sure she lines up. There she goes. Now just to pop her open, make sure everything's functioning. Hood latch is back installed. This screw right here is for the horn. Like I said, I'm just waiting on my condenser to come in. My condenser will be taking up these two holes, which I have brand new bolts for. Should be coming in sometime today. Next thing to do is, I'm thinking power steering and lift the car up, and I have to take off this driver's side wheel because it's a lot easier access through this side. So we'll have to get the car up on a jack stand. And the reason I wanted to get all this stuff off first before lifting the car and all that is because I'm removing this strut bar, which means I also got to remove the bolts that go to the suspension. And then when you lift it, the suspension won't shoot out or anything like that. So what I'm working on is removing a 14mm bolt. This one right here. I'm going to take care of that. It's a very hard angle to try to film, but that's the bolt that I'm accessing. And at the bottom, it's these two bolts that I got to loosen. So that one and this one in here. I got the connector clipped off. So all I got left to do, detach this power steering line. And then this other one, which is a flange, a nut. So I'm going to get an open-ended wrench, crack this one loose and take it all the way out, and then take this hose off as well. How she came, well, there's a difference in them. This one's no leaks anywhere, dry. That one's all super wet. So we went ahead, finished up the power steering, tightened all the lines, and tightened up the 3 bolts. It's on the underside, a lot cleaner. You can see how mucky it got just from all the leaking. I'm not gonna bore you guys with putting all that metal shrouding and plastic stuff back on. Alrighty guys, welcome back to another day. All right, tell me this is the wrong one. This is how the AC condenser looks, right? So a line goes up here and a line goes down bottom right, just for comparison. They said that this was for that car. It's definitely not. Well, that's frustrating. I gotta get all that popped off again, and the fenders have to come off anyway because I have to fix the wiring on that side. That reservoir, by the way, for the windshield washer fluid is not OEM. I pulled an OEM one, so I'm gonna go ahead and swap that one out. That one was just put there aftermarket, but I have to pull off that turn signal. I got a completely different color. I got the white clear lens ones instead of the amber color. I think it'll pop off a lot. Need to fix the pigtail. There's a pigtail that goes inside the fender, and it goes to this connector right here, as well as the windshield wiper line that goes to the rear is this one right here. So with this pigtail fully soldered and fully put back together, I'm gonna go ahead and put it back through those loops right there. I'm gonna go ahead and pop this old turn signal light out. So now with all that removed, I can go ahead and make my repair on this line right here. The harness obviously gets to come in right here. I want to go ahead and take care of this reservoir right here. So this reservoir gets mounted by 2 bolts, one right here, one on the outside, and that's it. I just have it mocked up right now, and then this little piece keeps it stabilized right against the actual frame itself. All right. Now it looks like this is the windshield wiper reservoir connector. This one I believe is supposed to go to the hood, and this one is supposed to go to the rear. Now for this hose right here, I have this little T-bit, I guess a hose adapter if you will. Now all that is done. Now the fender liner should be going on along with the fenders. Now the headlight restoration begins. This is the turn signal for the headlights themselves. I went ahead and took this botched of a wiring job off, and I'm going to be replacing it with a full new OEM harness, just straight back to these 3 wires. I'm going to solder that. You guys already saw me what that looks like, what that process looks like, so I'm going to just get that taken care of, tape it all back together just like I did this one right here, this line. Everything else is fixed and looking good. Now the only one thing is I repaired this line, this turn signal. It was tapped into before by a wire that was for the HIDs. It was pulling power from them, and then I repaired this turn signal as well because something was tapped into here for the HIDs as well. I found the same thing on the other side. Thankfully I do have this harness right here, and I also took the harness for the other turn signal. This wire is spliced in right here directly to the harness for this turn signal. Thankfully I have this full assembly pulled. I'm just gonna chop it off, chop this one off as well, these 3 wires. I'll go ahead and just attach a brand new harness on the driver's side as well. So that being said, I don't want to bore you guys. I'm going to just go ahead and tackle all this stuff that I need to solder and revert everything back to the OEM harnesses. That way everything works perfectly. And then I can go ahead and tackle all the nuts and bolts and, you know, the clips and whatnot that goes to the rest of this and buckling everything back together. I'm going to go ahead and knock that out, and I'll touch back with you guys as soon as I'm done. Alrighty guys, so the day got pretty windy. I'm going to be taking off this rear bumper and replacing it with that one. Like I said, it's really windy, so I don't really want to record with any audio. Alrighty guys, back at it another day. We ended up getting a new bezel. It's a lot better. It's a nice little hex pattern on it, and I think it's going to clean up the interior a little bit. This is the old one. I have to transfer over these switches and this plastic right here. I'll have to transfer that to the back of this bezel, and then we can go ahead and reattach it. Also have to take off the stereo today, and we're going to be wiring up the backup camera as well. And removed and replaced like the bezel switches, and we're gonna go ahead and take out the stereo unit so we can start wiring everything I need for this backup camera. So I have to plug in the microphone first. I'm gonna route these 2 wires for the Apple CarPlay and Android Auto to be behind this. I'll go ahead and route the cable. This is for the backup camera. I'm gonna go ahead and route this cable to the rear of the car where the backup camera is gonna be mounted, obviously. So I'll have to take off all the plastics alongside the car. This one's already removed where the foot goes. I'm going to drill a hole, that way I can stick this connector for the microphone somewhere in the dash. It's going to look very OEM, you're not going to be able to see the hole at all, and it has to be closest to the steering wheel, obviously where you're sitting as a driver, to be able to talk. So now I have to come down here to feed this cable through, and I'll have to route it back up here. I removed the old cigarette lighter bezel, and there's this adapter that pretty much you plug these two ends in, and the part sits in the cigarette lighter hole, and you pretty much just lock a nut on the back of it. Just to give you an idea, the USBs are gonna sit something like this. Next thing to do is plug the stereo back in and pull these cables out a little bit more. I'll probably leave like that much slack so when you pull the stereo unit. I'm just using this factory harness clip thing because nothing else gets routed in it, so might as well make use of it, you know? I think it's safe to put this one back. Alright guys, so we had a hiccup. We lost the mic somewhere in the audio process. I hope it hasn't been that long. Pretty much all I did was disassemble the whole rear. You guys got to see that part. So now that that's done, we're just wiring up the backup camera. What we went ahead and did was we mounted it on here. So this is just to hold it in a place for now so the camera doesn't fall off or anything. This is supposed to mount behind your license plate, which is really cool. You can still mount your license plate behind it. What we're gonna do is stick this wiring. This wiring is gonna go somewhere in here, and it's gonna get pushed through this grommet, this OEM grommet right here. That way no water or weather gets in here. So we're gonna have to take off that latch piece. We'll put in the harness through here, and then it'll route up, down through here, through the OEM loom, and that's where it should meet up. Well, all that wire is gonna have to come through here, should I say. And then they'll meet up somewhere around here to plug up and connect. The whole lickety split here. So we're gonna have to tap in somewhere to one of these wires because this goes to the full tail light assembly. I'll have to figure out what wire is the backup. Since I have a new multimeter, we'll just test every single pin individually. So whenever you put the car in reverse, which one of these activates and deactivates. And then whenever I figure that out, that cable is gonna be the one I'm gonna splice into for this blue wire. This blue wire is to send the reverse or backup camera signal. So that's when it lets the head unit know, hey, turn the backup camera on now or turn it off. And then we're also gonna have to pull a power cable for this one here. I can probably put it on with, maybe with the tail light actually, with whatever constant 12 volt is here. What are you doing, bud? He's like, must check this out. I know, pretty sweet ride, huh? He'd buy it. Alrighty guys, so I got my razor blade, brand new. I'm gonna go ahead and cut like an X towards the bottom of the grommet. All right, I can stick this wire through finally. We can go ahead and put this in, tighten her up, and that should be the last time I'm visiting any of this stuff back here. All right, my plan of attack here is getting this wire up through here. So I'll probably have to pop this off. All that wire goes, we're gonna follow that with this, and we'll stick it in through this grommet here. Alrighty guys, so here we ended up losing a lot of the mic audio. I don't know what happened in this last clip, but pretty much we just ended up finishing up the wiring for the backup camera. Everything turned out great. I'm super excited to put out episode 3. Thank you guys so much again for staying tuned and seeing it all the way through. I'm super excited for that last, third, and final episode, guys, coming very, very soon in a few more days. Don't forget to like, don't forget to comment. See you in the next one. Peace.